Captain stood on the observation deck of Defense Platform 7 and watched Earth slowly die. Through the reinforced windows, he could see the blue planet below, beautiful as always. But he knew the truth. In 6 months, maybe less, there would be no one left alive down there. The alien warships surrounded the entire solar system like a wall of steel. The Dominion had come with hundreds of ships, blocking every route in and out. No supplies could reach Earth. No help could arrive. The blockade was perfect and absolute. Rubbed his tired eyes. He had not slept properly in weeks. None of them had. The platform's food reserves were running low. Medicine was almost gone. Down on Earth it was worse. Much worse. Cities were going dark as power stations failed. Hospitals had no medicine for the sick. Children were crying from hunger. He walked to the communication station where Lieutenant sat with headphones on. Her face was pale and thin. Everyone looked like that now. "Any response from the Galactic Council?" asked, though he already knew the answer. Shook her head. "Nothing, sir. We sent another request for aid 3 hours ago. Complete silence." Felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Anger would not help. The Galactic Council had made their choice. Humanity was alone. The big alien empires did not want to fight the Dominion, so they left Earth to die. "Keep sending the message," said quietly. "Someone might hear, someone might care." He returned to his small office and sat at his desk. On the wall, he had put pictures of his family. His wife and their daughter lived in Seoul. He had not heard from them in 2 weeks. The communication networks were failing. A sudden alarm made him jump to his feet. He ran back to the command center. "Sir, we have unknown ships approaching," the sensor officer shouted. "They're coming through the blockade." His heart raced. "Ships?" "No, sir, the signatures don't match. These are smaller vessels, maybe 20 of them." Everyone in the command center held their breath. Were these more enemies, or something else? The ships moved closer. They were not built for war. Could see that immediately. They looked like cargo vessels, old and worn, and they were heading straight for Earth, ignoring the warships. "They're broadcasting a message," said, putting it on speakers. A gentle voice filled the room, speaking through a translator. "Human defenders, this is the relief convoy. We bring supplies for your people. Medical equipment, food, fusion cores for your power stations, and seeds for growing crops. Please guide us to your cargo docks." Stood frozen. He could not believe what he was hearing. Someone had come. Someone had actually come to help them. "Sir, the ships are moving to intercept them," the tactical officer warned. "Send them our docking coordinates now," ordered, "and prepare all defensive weapons. If those ships try to stop them, we fight." The next hour was chaos. The ships, moving faster than expected, dodged and weaved through the blockade. 3 of them were destroyed by enemy fire, watched helplessly as those ships exploded, their crews dying to bring help to strangers. But 17 ships made it through. They docked at Earth's orbital stations and began unloading their cargo. Took a shuttle to meet them in person. When he entered the docking bay, he saw them for the first time. They were shorter than humans, with soft fur covering their bodies and large, kind eyes. They looked like the cats from Earth, but they walked on 2 legs and wore simple clothes. An older stepped forward. He walked slowly, leaning on a wooden stick. His fur was white with age. "I am Elder," the said through his translator device. "We heard your call for help. We are sorry we could not bring more." Felt his throat tighten. "You came. That's more than anyone else did, but why? You don't know us. We can't pay you. We have nothing to offer." Elder smiled, a gentle expression that crossed the gap between species. "The strong should protect those who cannot protect themselves. You are weak now, but you will be strong someday. When that day comes, we ask only one thing. Remember this moment. Remember that we stood with you." Over the next week, the supplies were distributed across Earth. The medicine saved thousands of lives. The fusion cores brought power back to dying cities. The seeds gave hope for the future. but knew it was not enough. The supplies bought them time, maybe 3 or 4 more months. Unless something changed, humanity would still die. They prepared to leave. They had to go quickly before the ships blocked them again. Elder came to say goodbye. "We will try to come back," he said, "but they are watching us now. It will be difficult." "You've already done more than we could ever ask," said. He gripped the elder's hand. "I promise you, Elder, humanity will remember. We will write down every name of every who came here. We will never forget this kindness." The elder nodded. "Then our journey was worth it. Grow strong, Captain, survive, and maybe one day we will meet again as friends among the stars." Watch from the observation deck as the ships departed. They fired on them again. 5 more ships were destroyed, their crews dying to escape the system. 12 ships made it out, 12 out of 20. That night began writing in Earth's memorial archives. He listed every name of every who had come, every pilot, every engineer, every crew member. He wrote about their sacrifice and their kindness. 3 months later, human scientists achieved a breakthrough. A new faster-than-light drive, powered by the fusion cores they had brought. It changed everything. Humanity could escape. They could scatter to the stars and survive. The evacuation began. Millions of humans fled Earth in colony ships, spreading across the galaxy to hide and rebuild. They could not catch them all. Humanity survived, but made sure every colony ship carried a copy of the memorial archives. Every human who fled into the darkness carried the names of the aliens who stood with them when no one else would. As his own ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, leaving the solar system behind, looked at the list of names one more time. "We will remember," he whispered to the empty room, "and someday we will return this gift. I promise you that." The ship vanished into the stars, carrying humanity's refugees to an uncertain future. But they carried something else too, a debt of honor that would not be forgotten, a promise that would echo across the centuries. They had given humanity more than supplies. They had given them hope, and humanity would never forget. 200 years passed like water flowing through cupped hands. Commander stood in the assembly hall on New Sol, one of the largest human colonies. Around her sat representatives from 40 different human worlds. They had come from mining colonies on airless moons, from farming worlds with purple skis, from fortress stations floating in deep space. All of them were the children of Earth's scattered refugees. Carried her great-great-grandfather's name. Had died 50 years ago, an old man who spent his last days making sure the memorial archives were preserved. He had told stories about when she was a little girl, about their kindness, about their sacrifice. "We are no longer refugees," told the assembly. "We are no longer weak. We have built new homes. Our population numbers in the hundreds of billions. Our technology rivals any empire in the galaxy. The question before us today is simple. What kind of people do we want to be?" She activated the holographic display. Images of appeared above the assembly floor, but something was wrong with the images. The beautiful forests her grandfather had described were gone. Cities lay in ruins, and everywhere there were military installations. "This is what happened to said, her voice hard. "After they helped us, the Dominion punished them. They called the aid to humanity an act of rebellion. 20 years after we fled Earth, the Dominion invaded the worlds. They took everything." A representative from the Tau colony stood up. "How bad is it?" Pulled up more images. "They are slaves now. The Dominion erased their language from schools, destroyed their historical monuments, took their children to work in factories. The species that saved us is dying slowly under occupation." The assembly hall fell silent. 40 representatives stared at the images. Medical Officer Wu was the first to speak. He was a young man, barely 30, but his family had been doctors for generations. "We have the resources now, the ships, the weapons. The question is not if we can help them, it's if we will." "The Galactic Council will condemn us," someone warned. They might even support the against us. The Galactic Council did nothing when we were dying, reminded them. They did nothing when they were invaded. Why should we care what they think? Another representative stood. If we do this, we must be committed. We cannot start and then abandon them. Are we really ready to go to war? Pulled up the memorial archives. The names of the scrolled through the air, thousands of them glowing softly. Every person who had come to help Earth. Every person who had died breaking through the blockade. My great-great-grandfather made a promise, said. He promised we would remember, but what good is memory if we do nothing? They stood with us when we had nothing to offer, when we were weak and dying. Now we have everything we need. Now we are strong. If we don't stand with them, then we are not the people I thought we were. The representatives looked at each other. Slowly, one by one, they stood up. The vote was silent but clear. Every single person in that hall stood. It was unanimous. The preparation began immediately. Sent messages to every human colony, every independent station, every corporation and government. She did not command them. She simply told them the truth. They were suffering. Humanity was going to help. Anyone who wanted to join was welcome. The response shocked even. Ships came from everywhere. Mining companies sent their security forces. Colony worlds emptied their defense fleets. Even the generation ships, massive vessels that had been traveling for decades to reach distant stars, turned around and sent their resources. Engineer Lee led the technical preparation. He was a genius with computers and weapons systems. He analyzed every bit of information humanity had about the Dominion, their ships, their tactics, their technology. 200 years of hiding and surviving had made humans very good at gathering information. They're strong, reported to, but they're arrogant. They haven't fought a real war in 300 years. They're used to crushing weak opponents. They have no idea how to fight an enemy that fights back. Diplomat Song took on a different task. He traveled to the Galactic Council and delivered a message. Humanity is going to liberate he told the assembled aliens. We are not asking for your permission. We are not asking for your help. We are simply informing you of what will happen. When they stood with us, they stood alone. Today, they will not stand alone. And tomorrow, when any of you need friends, remember who had courage and who had fear. Some species in the council were angry. Some were worried. But a few, the smaller and weaker ones, sent quiet messages of support. They could not help openly, but they shared intelligence. They offered safe harbors for human ships. They remembered what it was like to be ignored by the powerful. The Dominion laughed at humanity's threats. They were an ancient empire with thousands of warships. Humanity was a scattered group of refugees who had only been in space for 200 years. What could these young upstarts possibly do? They were about to find out. Admiral Jin commanded the assembled fleet from his flagship, a massive carrier called the Remembrance. He was a veteran of dozens of small conflicts, fights against pirates and raiders. But this was different. This was war on a scale humanity had never attempted. The night before the operation began, Jin walked through the Remembrance's Memorial Hall. Every human warship had one now, a room where the names were displayed on the walls. 17,000 crew members followed his example that night. They walked through the hall slowly, reading the names. A young pilot asked Jin a question. "Sir, most of us never met these. Why are we risking our lives for them?" Jin put his hand on the wall, touching a name. Because they risked their lives for people they never met. Because kindness must be repaid. And because we made a promise. Humans keep their promises. The young pilot nodded and continued reading the names. In the crew quarters, soldiers prepared their equipment. In the engineering bays, technicians checked every system 3 times. In the medical sections, doctors prepared for casualties. Everyone knew this would be costly. People would die, ships would be destroyed, but no one asked to stay behind. They all understood what was at stake. Wu, now the fleet's chief medical officer, sent a message to all medical teams. We're going to see terrible things. We're going to lose people we care about. But remember why we're here. They gave our ancestors a chance to live. Now we give their descendants a chance to be free. The fleet gathered at the jump point. Hundreds of ships, representing every part of human civilization. They were not one government or one military. They were something better. They were people united by a debt of honor. Transmitted the final message before the jump. 200 years ago, they brought us hope when we had none. They brought us life when we were dying. Today, we return the favor, for honor, for the promise we made. The fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel. When they emerged, the liberation would begin. And the galaxy would learn that humanity never forgets its friends. The human fleet gathered in the Vega sector, far from prying eyes. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled, and it came together piece by piece over 3 months. Admiral Jin watched from the Remembrance's command bridge as more ships arrived every day. Warships from the military colonies, carriers from the industrial worlds, supply vessels from the farming planets, even small patrol boats from the mining stations. Every human settlement sent something. Final count, Admiral, his second officer reported. 417 warships, 212 support vessels, 90,000 soldiers, 300,000 crew members total. Jin nodded slowly. It was an impressive force, but the Dominion controlled 12 star systems with thousands of ships. Numbers alone would not win this war. It's not about how many ships we have, Jin told his officers. It's about what we do with them. They expect strength to win. We'll show them that intelligence beats strength. Intelligence officer had spent the last year preparing for this moment. She was the great-granddaughter of the lieutenant who served with on Defense Platform 7. Like her ancestor, she was brilliant at understanding patterns and finding weaknesses. His team had infiltrated space not with spies but with something smarter, merchants. Over the past 50 years, human traders had spread throughout the galaxy. They were everywhere, selling goods, buying supplies, making friends. No one suspected them. No one thought twice about a human merchant ship passing through a system. But those merchants had been gathering information the whole time. Every patrol route, every military base, every supply depot, every weakness in their defenses. They sent it all back to. The Dominion has 17 major installations in space, explained to Jin, showing him holographic maps. But they're spread out. They never expected anyone to challenge them. If we hit them all at once, their response will be chaos. Can we really hit 17 targets simultaneously? Jin asked. We have enough ships if we divide the fleet. Small, fast strike groups instead of one big force. We hit hard, accomplish the mission, and jump out before they can organize a counterattack. Jin studied the maps. It was risky. Dividing your forces was dangerous, but was right. They would not expect it. They thought in terms of big battles and overwhelming force. Humanity had learned to think differently during 200 years of survival. Make it happen, Jin ordered. While planned the military strategy, Diplomat Song worked on the political side. He was old now, past 70, but his mind was sharp as ever. He understood that war was not just about fighting. It was about making sure you did not create more enemies than you defeated. Broadcasted a message across the entire galaxy. Every species, every government, every news network received it. The Dominion conquered the 20 years ago, said calmly. They did this because they helped humanity when we were refugees. The Dominion called kindness a crime. Today, humanity rejects that idea. We are going to liberate the. We will not ask permission. We will not wait for approval. We simply wanted everyone to know. He paused, letting his words sink in. Some of you will call this aggression. Some will say we are causing trouble, but ask yourselves this question. When you needed help, who stood with you? When you were weak, who defended you? Remember your answer. because someday you might need friends, and on that day you will want someone who remembers kindness. The message created chaos in the Galactic Council. Some species demanded humanity be stopped, others stayed quiet. A few sent secret messages of support. The Dominion responded with threats and mockery. Their ambassador called humanity upstart children playing at war. Simply smiled. Let them be confident. Confidence made people careless. Back at Vega Sector, the fleet prepared for departure. Engineer Lee had been working day and night on the ships. He made sure every vessel had the latest weapons, the strongest shields, the fastest engines. Human technology had advanced rapidly during the exile. They had to be better than everyone else just to survive. Now that technology would be used for liberation. "How are the strike teams looking?" Jin asked. "Ready, sir. Each group has practiced their specific mission 100 times. They know their targets. They know the escape routes. We've even prepared backup plans for the backup plans." Jin clapped on the shoulder. "Your grandfather would be proud." His grandfather had been one of the engineers who developed the FTL drive that saved humanity. The same drive powered by fusion cores. The family had never forgotten that connection. Colonel Park commanded the ground forces. She was a tough woman in her 40s from years of fighting pirates and raiders. She had trained her soldiers for urban combat because she knew the fighting would happen in cities. They used civilians as shields. Troops would have to be careful. "Our mission is to protect lives," told her soldiers during briefings. "We're not here to destroy things. We're here to save people. Every soldier we have to fight is regrettable. Every civilian we fail to protect is a tragedy. Fight hard, but fight smart." The soldiers listened carefully. Many of them carried small tokens, pictures, or items from the memorial archives. They wanted to remember why they were fighting. The night before departure, Jin held a final meeting with all the strike group commanders. 17 groups, 17 missions, all happening at the same time. "They think we're weak because we ran away 200 years ago," Jin said. "They think survival means cowardice. They're wrong. Running away meant we were smart enough to live. Now we're strong enough to fight. They have no idea what's coming." He pulled up images of both past and present. Pictures from 200 years ago showed them smiling, healthy, free. Recent pictures showed them thin, sad, enslaved. "These people saved our species," Jin continued. "When everyone else turned away, they came. They died for us. Now we return the favor. Some of you will not come back from this mission. That's the truth of war. But you will die knowing you did the right thing. You will die as heroes." The commanders saluted. Not one of them looked afraid. Across the fleet, similar meetings happened on every ship. Captains talked to their crews. Squad leaders talked to their soldiers. Medical teams prepared their equipment. Everyone understood what was coming. In the Remembrances Memorial Hall, hundreds of people gathered for a final vigil. They read the names aloud. Each name was spoken with respect and gratitude. The reading took 3 hours. No one left early. A young soldier, barely 20 years old, asked Jin why they spent so much time on the names. "Because names matter," Jin explained. "Those could have stayed home. They could have ignored our suffering, but they chose to help. They chose to risk everything. The least we can do is remember them as individuals, not just as a group. Every name represents someone who was brave and kind." The young soldier nodded and continued reading. As the vigil ended, Wu gave a brief speech. "My family has been doctors for 8 generations. We believe in saving lives. Tomorrow we go to war, which seems the opposite of medicine, but it's not. We're removing a disease. The Dominion is a cancer on the galaxy. Tomorrow we cut it out of space. We do it carefully, precisely, like surgeons. And when we're done, they will be free to heal." The crew cheered. Jin returned to his quarters late that night. He wrote a letter to his children, just in case he did not return. In it, he explained why this mission mattered, why honor was worth fighting for, why humanity had to be the kind of species that kept its promises. He sealed the letter and placed it in his desk. Then he slept for 4 hours. When he woke, it was time. The fleet prepared to jump. 417 warships, 17 strike groups, 1 mission. Jin sat in his command chair and looked at his officers. All ships report ready. All ships ready, Admiral. Then let's bring our friends home. All ships jump in 3, 2, 1, jump. The fleet vanished in flashes of light. When they reappeared, they would be in space. And the Dominion's occupation would end. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at exactly 600 Galactic Standard Time. 17 different star systems, 17 different targets, all at the same moment. The commanders were drinking morning tea when their alarms started screaming. Admiral Jin stood on the bridge of the Remembrance as his strike group dropped into normal space above the. The planet was beautiful, with green continents and blue oceans, but surrounding it were ugly gray stations and military platforms. All ships begin the operation, Jin ordered calmly. Remember, precision over power. We're here to liberate, not destroy. The human ships moved like dancers. Frigates swept in to disable communication arrays. Destroyers targeted weapon platforms. Carriers launched waves of fighters. Each ship knew exactly what to do. They had practiced this 1,000 times. The forces scrambled to respond. Their ships were powerful, heavily armed and armored, but they moved slowly, uncertain. They had no idea humans could coordinate like this. They expected a big, clumsy attack. Instead, they got surgical strikes. Enemy command station disabled, reported from her console. They can't coordinate their defense. Good, Jin said. Begin landing operations. Colonel Park sat in the lead as it fell toward the capital city. Around her, 40 soldiers checked their weapons and armor one final time. They were scared. She could see it in their eyes, but they were ready. The shook as it entered the atmosphere. Anti-aircraft fire lit up the sky, but human fighters cleared the way. They landed hard in the middle of the city square. Was the first one out. She raised her rifle and scanned the area. Civilians were running, screaming, trying to hide. Soldiers were setting up defensive positions, and beyond them could see the slave labor camps where they were forced to work. "Third squad, secure the civilians," shouted. "First and second squads with me, we take out those checkpoints." Her soldiers moved quickly. They formed a protective circle around the frightened civilians, guiding them to safety. Other soldiers advanced on the positions. The fighting was brutal and close. The soldiers were tough fighters, but they were used to fighting unarmed slaves. They had never faced enemies who fought back with training and determination. Squad cleared building after building. Every time they found prisoners, they freed them. Every time they found weapons storage, they destroyed it. Slowly, block by block, they pushed forward. A young male approached during a brief pause in the fighting. He looked thin and scared, but his eyes were filled with hope. "Why?" he asked in broken human language. "Why you help us?" Pulled out a small picture from her pocket. It showed a pilot from 200 years ago. The picture was old and faded. "This is your great-great-grandmother," said. "Her name was, she flew a supply ship to Earth when my people were dying. She never made it home. They killed her on her way back." The young's eyes filled with tears. I did not know." "We know," said gently. "We remember every name, every person who helped us. She stood with us. Now we stand with you." The young nodded and ran to help evacuate civilians. Above the planet, the space battle continued. Engineer Lee coordinated the technical aspects from his cruiser. He had designed special weapons just for this mission, not to kill, but to disable. Human ships fired electromagnetic pulses that shut down systems without destroying them. They used precision lasers to cut through armor plating without causing explosions. "We're not here to massacre them," had explained during the planning. "We're here to make them leave. Big difference. The strategy worked. Ships found themselves powerless, drifting in space. Their crews evacuated in escape pods. Human ships collected the pods and kept the crews safe. They would be returned later, unharmed. Across 17 star systems, the same scene repeated. Human forces arrived with overwhelming coordination and skill. They hit military targets precisely. They avoided civilian casualties. They freed prisoners. The Dominion tried to send reinforcements, but its intelligence was perfect. Human ships ambushed every relief fleet before they could reach the systems. The battles were short and decisive. On the fourth day of the operation, its forces reached the main slave camp outside the capital city. Thousands were imprisoned there, working in terrible conditions. Guards had weapons pointed at the prisoners, threatening to kill them if humans came closer. Stopped her advance and activated her communicator to the commander. "You can surrender or you can die," she said simply. "But you cannot win. Our snipers have you targeted, our ships control the skis. Your reinforcements are not coming. Put down your weapons and you live. Fight and you die, your choice." The commander was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, the guards lowered their weapons. And her soldiers moved in carefully. They arrested the forces and freed the prisoners. Medical officer Wu and his team immediately began treating the freed. Many were sick, injured, or malnourished. "It's okay," Wu told each patient. "You're safe now. We're going to take care of you." An elderly woman grabbed Wu's hand. "Human doctor, why you do this for us?" Wu smiled. "Because 200 years ago your people did this for us. You saved us when we were dying. Now we save you. This is what friends do." By the end of the second week, all 17 systems were liberated. The military presence was destroyed or captured. Not a single civilian had been harmed. Human forces had been careful, precise, and honorable. The Dominion's main fleet finally arrived, ready to crush the human invaders. But they found something they did not expect. The human fleet was ready for them, organized, waiting. Admiral Jin broadcast a message to the admiral. "Your occupation of space is over," Jin said. "Your forces are defeated. Your installations are destroyed. They are free. You have a choice now. You can accept this and leave in peace, or you can fight us and we will destroy your entire fleet." The admiral was furious. "You are refugees. You have no right to challenge us." "We were refugees," Jin corrected. "We're not anymore, and we have every right to help our friends. They stood with us when we had nothing. Now we stand with them. This is not negotiable. We will destroy you." "You can try," Jin said calmly. "But ask yourself this. We just liberated 17 star systems in 2 weeks. We defeated your forces with minimal casualties. We did all of this while being careful not to harm civilians. Imagine what we could do if we stopped being careful. Imagine what we could do if we decided to visit your core worlds." The admiral went quiet. "Leave thee alone," Jin continued. "Never threaten them again. Never threaten anyone who showed kindness to humanity. Do this and you will never see us again. Break this agreement and we will return. And next time we will not be so gentle." The fleet, they had no choice. They were outmatched, outmaneuvered, and outfought. The liberation was complete. Stood in the city square as freed prisoners emerged from the camps. Thousands of them, blinking in the sunlight, free for the first time in 20 years. An old male walked up to her. His fur was white with age and he moved slowly, but his eyes were bright. "I am Elder," he said. "Do you know that name?" His eyes widened. You were there 200 years ago. You brought the supplies to Earth." "I was young then," said with a soft smile. "I thought I might help some strangers. I never imagined they would return to save my entire people." "We promise to remember," said, her voice thick with emotion. "Humans keep their promises." Embraced her and hugged him back. Around them, soldiers and freed prisoners celebrated together. The galaxy watched in shock. Humanity had done the impossible. They had defeated a major empire. They had liberated an entire species, and they had done it all because of a debt of honor. The message was clear. Humanity remembered its friends, and humanity protected its friends, no matter the cost. The news of the liberation spread across the galaxy in days. Every species heard about it. Every government discussed it. The impossible had happened. A young species had challenged an ancient empire and won. Ambassador stood before the Galactic Council 3 months after the liberation. The same council that had ignored humanity's pleas 200 years ago. The same council that did nothing when they were invaded. Now they wanted to talk. Ambassador, the council speaker said nervously, humanity's actions have created complications. The Dominion is demanding reparations. They say you attacked without provocation. Smiled coldly. Without provocation, they enslaved an entire species. They destroyed the culture. They committed crimes that this council ignored for 20 years. Where were the complications then? The council chamber fell silent. Many species looked uncomfortable. Let me be very clear, continued. Humanity does not recognize the claim to space. We do not recognize their authority over any species they have conquered through force, and we will not pay them anything. If the council wishes to condemn us, go ahead. We have learned that your condemnation means nothing. A smaller species ambassador, an insect-like being called, spoke up. Some of us support what humanity did, but we are afraid to say so openly. They are powerful. They were powerful, corrected. Now they are weak. They lost 17 star systems in 2 weeks. Their military is broken. Their reputation is destroyed. They have nothing but threats and empty words. Another ambassador asked, "What does humanity want?" Pulled up holographic displays showing various species. These are the species that helped humanity during our exile. The obviously, but also the who gave us sanctuary in their stations. The who traded with us when no one else would. The who shared agricultural techniques. Not one of these species is powerful. Not one of them had anything to gain from helping us, but they did it anyway. She looked around the chamber. Humanity wants to build relationships with people who have honor, people who do what is right, not what is profitable. We will trade with you. We will defend you. We will share our technology with you, but only if you prove yourselves worthy. The age of might making right is over. Honor matters now. The speech created chaos in the council. Some species were angry, others were thoughtful. But the smaller species, the ones who had always been ignored, started talking to each other. For the first time, they had hoped that things could change. Back on the rebuilding had begun. Engineer Lee worked alongside builders to repair the damage, but they were building something else too. "What is this monument for?" a young worker asked. "It's for remembering," explained. 200 years ago, your ancestors helped mine. Now we've helped you. This monument celebrates both moments. The monument was simple but beautiful. 2 hands clasped in friendship, one human and one, made from stone that would last 1,000 years. The inscription was carved in both languages. They stood with us when we had nothing. We stood with them when we had everything. This is the measure of civilization. The dedication ceremony drew visitors from across the galaxy. Small species sent representatives to see the monument and meet the humans. They wanted to understand this strange concept. Gratitude powerful enough to start a war. Loyalty strong enough to challenge an empire. Elder stood beside Commander during the ceremony. Both of them were old now. Was ancient, past 150 years. Was 73. But they stood straight and proud. "We gave you supplies and hope," said quietly. "You gave us freedom and a future. The debt is paid." Shook her head gently. "There is no debt between friends, and we are friends now and forever." The ceremony ended with a moment of silence for those who had died. The who died bringing supplies to Earth 200 years ago. The humans who died liberating space. All their names were read aloud. It took hours. No one left. In the following years, the galaxy changed. The Dominion found itself increasingly isolated. Other empires, seeing what happened to became more cautious. No one wanted to make enemies of humanity. But more importantly, smaller species started working together. The Inhumans formed the Alliance of Free Peoples. Other species joined. The dozens of small species who had been ignored for centuries. The alliance was different from the Galactic Council. It was based on mutual support, not power. Each species, regardless of size, had an equal vote. Help was freely given. Protection was guaranteed. Diplomat Song, now retired and very old, watched the alliance grow from his home on New Sol. He smiled when he received reports of the 20th species joining. "This is what we fought for," he told his grandson. "Not conquest, not revenge, but a galaxy where kindness is rewarded and honor matters." Medical officer Wu continued his work on He had stayed after the liberation to help rebuild their medical system. He trained doctors. He shared human medical knowledge freely. Many of his students became the finest doctors in their sector. "Why do you give away your knowledge?" a student asked him. "Because knowledge grows when it's shared," Wu explained. "Your ancestors gave my people the gift of survival. I give your people the gift of healing. Someday, you will give gifts to others. This is how civilization advances." Colonel Park became a teacher. She trained security forces for the Alliance of Free Peoples. She taught them not just how to fight, but why to fight, how to protect without oppressing, how to use force only when necessary. "The strongest warrior is the one who knows when not to fight," she told her students. "We liberated the not because we were strong, but because we were right. Right is always stronger than might if you have the courage to stand for it." Admiral Jin retired to write a book about the liberation. He wanted future generations to understand what happened and why. The book was simple and honest. It talked about fear and courage, about duty and friendship, about keeping promises even when it was hard. The book became required reading in human schools and alliance academies. Young people across the galaxy learned the story of how humanity repaid its debts. 35 years after the liberation, the Galactic Council voted on something called the Accords. It was a set of rules to protect smaller species from conquest and enslavement. It created intervention protocols to prevent future atrocities. The vote passed, not because the powerful species suddenly became kind, but because they were afraid that if they enslaved someone, that someone might have friends like humanity. A young council member representing a species barely 50 years into space travel asked Ambassador Song a question. Was successor young and idealistic? Ambassador Song, how does humanity want to be remembered? Thought about the question carefully. She thought about an elder, about the memorial archives and the monument, about all the people who had died so others could be free. "The same way we remember answered, as people who did the right thing when it mattered most, not because it was easy, not because it was profitable, but because it was right." The session ended, but the impact continued. Representatives from different species began talking more, sharing ideas, building friendships. A shift was happening in galactic civilization. Slowly, carefully, the balance of power was changing, not through war or conquest, but through something more powerful. The example of species who chose honor over profit, friendship over fear. In the memorial archives, which now existed on hundreds of worlds, new names were being added every year. Species who helped refugees, individuals who stood up against injustice, ordinary people who did extraordinary things. The archives were no longer just about the past. They were about the present and future, a record of kindness that would never be forgotten. Children played in parks that had been slave camps 35 years ago. They spoke their own language, learned their own history, and grew up free. Many of them had never known the occupation. To them, freedom was normal. But every child learned the story in school, how their ancestors helped strangers, how those strangers became friends, how friendship changed the galaxy. One young girl asked her teacher a question: "Will humans always protect us?" The teacher smiled. "They will always be our friends, but we must also be strong enough to protect ourselves and help others. That is what friends do. They make each other stronger." The girl nodded and returned to her studies. Far away on Earth, which had been recolonized and rebuilt, people still read the names in the memorial archives. They still told the stories. They still taught their children about the who came when no one else would. And in the darkness of space, human ships patrolled the borders of the Alliance of Free Peoples. They were not conquerors. They were not tyrants. They were simply friends, keeping watch over those who had once watched over them. The galaxy had learned a simple truth. Humanity did not forget those who stood with them, and their appreciation truly did echo across the stars. Not as words, but as actions that would ripple through the cosmos for generations to come. Because in the end, the strongest force in the universe was not weapons or wealth. It was the bond between friends who chose to stand together, no matter the cost. And that bond, once forged in kindness and sealed in loyalty, could never be broken.